p.m. Are there any amendments or deletions to the agenda? Okay, hearing none. At this time, we have an opportunity for public comment. We do ask that people raise your hand on Zoom or here, let us know that you would like to speak. Say the name and the town that you live in. And we ask you to try to limit yourself to 2 minutes. Especially if there's a lot of people who want to speak. And we also ask that you keep in mind that this is a recorded Zoom and we appreciate civility. So saying that, is there anyone who would like to make a public comment?
Yes. My hand is very fuzzy.
Okay,
Hi, folks. My name is Elizabeth Frascoy, and I live in Topsville. I'm a parent of 2 kiddos at the elementary school, and I personally went to Woodstock Elementary and junior high school, as it was called way back in the day, and the high school. And I just wanted to express my support for whatever financial decisions are coming and curriculum decisions that are coming, that they include the holistic picture of an education, including arts education, the unified arts of STEM, Spanish, and visual art and music. For myself, I know that music took me down my path. I became a professional musician coming out of this school district, and I would not have had that if I hadn't had that building from kindergarten. I just know that the building blocks and the fundamental pieces of that, what became a career, were essential as a 5-year-old. So my son is in 3rd grade and his jam is STEM. So I just know that it's different for every kid, but there's a lot of data about how important the arts are for literacy and for college and post-secondary attainment. And I really urge you to keep that in mind as you make decisions. So thank you.
thank you. Anybody else who's here? Yes.
Hi, I'm Sarit Warner. I also have a child in the elementary school who's loving it so far, so that's great. And I'm from Woodstock. And there's just been a couple of things on my mind. And part of it is that the mental health crisis is expensive for schools. I'm also concerned about hearing that STEM, science, art, music, Spanish are on the chopping block. I'm wondering why the cafeterias aren't in use anymore, the elementary schools, the high schools, because that's a time for socialization, and I think school is all about socialization and critical thinking. There's no musical concerts in the West. It would be amazing for the children to be able to sing. Don't they benefit from being in front of an audience? West has a great legacy, and what is it going to do with it? And lastly, the kids whose parents can afford it are going to get art classes. And I'm also a professional artist and made it because I had art classes going through. That was my safe place. And I just want to say that if the kids don't have art in school, maybe they'll get it in rehab.
Thank you. Anyone else? Yes.
Hi, my name is Laura. I'm the art teacher at West. Public speaking is not really my jam, so I'm just going to do a little bit of what I do. Today in art, we learned about lines, and I taught the children that anything in the world you can draw if you know the right lines. You have straight lines, which can be vertical, horizontal, or diagonal, and you've got curved lines, and you have zigzag lines, which are really just straight lines that change direction very quickly. After we talked about the lines, I showed them some examples in a slideshow. I wish I could show you, but I'm just here as me, so you have to use your imagination. I showed them some lithographs by Rembrandt, and we talked about how his use of diagonal lines really close together portrayed rain. Curved lines were the trees, the horizontal lines were the ground. Lots of lines close together is dark. Fewer lines further apart is light. And then we talked about how you could get a huge message across with just very few lines. like Picasso. You can see his War and Peace or Peace the Dove. It's just a few little wiggly lines, but you know, it's a dove with feathers, and it's just, it must have taken very little time, but like with enough practice and the desire, you can do that. And then I showed them a dollar bill. A dollar bill is nothing but thousands of lines. They were amazed by this. So like next time you look at a dollar bill or a 5, if you're lucky, look at it really close. And then I showed them Keith Haring and how all of his lines are the same thickness, but you can tell there's feeling coming out of their heads and there's movement lines. And now we've talked about 4 artists. Yes, they are all white men, but we've also talked about woodblocks with Hokusai. We're going to talk about Yayoi Kusama and her obliteration room, polka dots. I'm hoping to make one in the entryway. We're going to talk about how Basquiat used found materials to make art no matter what your economic circumstance. I think we talk a lot about diversity and inclusion in this district, and we need to keep in mind that music and art and STEM and language are exceptional ways to show practical uses for these skills and show kids what people do, what you can do, make connections. And it doesn't have to be, everyone's going to be an artist, but we're talking about the whole child. And what a better way to show them what they can do by what people all around the world have done. And we also talk about how the United States' biggest export is culture. We have to remember that
We're
culture is
over
important.
2 minutes, so if you could wrap
Thank you.
up, that would be great. Thank you. Thank you very much. Anyone else? Yes,
Hi, Sabrina Brown. I'm on the Vermont State Arts Council, and I am here just to say that the Vermont State Arts Council is in the middle of their strategic plan, and we've been doing group meetings to find out what's important to Vermonters in the state of Vermont, and have spoken to over 3,000 people who have responded. And one of the 2 most important things that we have heard is education and cultural education and the arts education in the state. So from the strategic point of view for the Vermont Arts Council, this is one of the biggest priorities that we have here in the state as we are planning our 1 to 5 year strategic plan. And I have children who have benefited heavily from the arts here, from kindergarten through their graduation. And many of my 5 children are heavily involved in things that the arts supported them in learning and creative thinking and their success. And many have come back to the state of Vermont because they have been supported in the arts here. So it's cultural, it's STEM, it's so much of what you said. Thank you. And I just wanted to let you know that the State of Vermont Arts Council, which receives federal funding and funds throughout the state, arts funding, is present and active and supportive. Thank you.
thank you. Anybody else? Katie.
Hi. I'm sorry, the camera's crazy. My name is Katie Brickner. I live in Pomfret. My daughter Abby is in pre-K at Rainbow and will begin at West next fall. I've dedicated my career to art education. I'm the executive editor of Scholastic Art Magazine for middle and high school students, which is a magazine about art history and contemporary art. I'm also a member of the STEAM education group at Scholastic and executive editor for the company's suite of world language magazines. The arts and the humanities and STEM are at the center of my professional life. I echo what others have said about the importance of the arts, humanities, and STEM in education, and I won't reiterate everything that has been said, but I will add that throughout my career, I've had the privilege of interviewing professionals in a wide range of fields, from the head of design at Nike to an automotive designer at GM to an animator for NASA. Without fail, every one of them credits their art education as lighting the spark that led them to their professional success. Reducing or eliminating the time spent in United Arts and Sciences will absolutely have a negative effect on students. It reduces, studies have shown that it makes them less excited to come to class, and so attendance drops. SAT scores are lower, especially for low-income students. And overall, it just reduces their excitement about coming to school. So I hope that you will please reconsider these changes. Thank you.
Thank you. Eric?
Hi there. Of course, when I was there, nobody was in there. Eric Pellegrini, I have a son with my husband, Robert. We are first graders, and the whole reason we're standing here living in Woodstock was because of the incredible schools and the variety of programs offered. And every day I ask our son after he comes home from school, what was your favorite thing? And today his favorite class was art with Miss Laura, and he was fascinated by the concept that lines can be anything and create anything. The other week it was music class. He was amazed about who Celia Cruz was. Every day he comes back and spends his mornings in the STEM lab. It's the most vital part of our kids, especially at these younger ages, of their well-rounded education. A big part of why this community has grown the way it has, and the way to preserve this population of really engaged, really care parents that care, kids that love to play, and kids that love to come to school. Reading is, of course, important. Math is important, but there are many aspects to our overall lives that need to be considered. And I think that these changes, as proposed and learned, are go against everything that a school should be and are against the whole cultural grain of Woodstock and should be greatly reconsidered. Thank you.
Thank you. Anybody else? Okay, I would just like to say that no final decisions have been made on any of the cuts. There are many things on the table besides the things that have been talked about in our board meetings here through the public comment. And it pains us terribly to have to cut 1 cent out of that budget. Is what the state has told us we have to stay below in order to not have a penalty phase come into our 2025-26 budget. And so the board, particularly the finance committee, through the work of the principals, have looked at many things, and the cuts are not made in any one specific area. At some point soon, probably in early December, we will finalize the budget, but the state has to tell us a specific number that we need to put into the count to make it cost effective and stay below that threshold. So I just want to say that we hear you, we've heard it. If we're not parents now, we've had children, many of us. And, you know, it's not because we want to cut the budget, believe me. Thank you. All right, the first report is from Sherry, the superintendent.
So tonight, just the superintendent will be providing a report and Jim Fenn, Director of Finance. The other reports are in our book. Wanted to talk about some of the work we're doing in terms of how do we support teachers and in the classroom, something that's called the through line of learning. So really looking at how superintendent supports principals, how principal supports teachers, and then how teachers are moving in the classroom and supporting students. And that's called the through line of learning. Something that we're doing this year is that every building will be visited by all the principals and the directors, and we'll be doing walkthroughs, focusing on a problem of practice that's been identified by teachers. And Killington Elementary was our first walkthrough with all of those adults in a variety of classrooms. And our next place that next week we'll be visiting Woodstock Elementary School. So really looking at our student data, ongoing professional development, and also regular meetings with the leadership team. Two other experiences that we've had that will add to that professional development was working with myself and a few others attended the Reading League Conference in Charlotte, North Carolina, looking at literacy gaps, knowing what evidence-based instruction looks like, and how to prepare teachers for this work. And last week, Carrie and I attended the Vermont Superintendents Association and the Vermont School Boards Association's fall conference. And our work, we really focused on communication and how we better inform our communities of the work that's going, as well as the Yo Theater players presented at the conference. It was really exciting work.
Thank you, Sherry. Any questions for Sherry? All right, Jim?
Sure, in your budget link, I mean, in your board packet link was the October expenditure report. If anybody has any questions, I'm happy to take them. But I really just want to expand on something that Carrie just said about the budget. The leadership team's been working since July on the budget, and, you know, it's been a long process trying to make things come together with the least impact on anything going on in the district. But what we have to understand is that the legislature last year set a penalty phase that if we exceeded a per pupil cost of X, then we'll have to raise $2 for every dollar that we keep. That level X was $500,000 less than we got from the state last year. Which means that in order to not have to go into penalty under the current law, we've got to reduce our budget by over $2.5 million from what we adopted this year. What we're living with this year. That's the problem that we're dealing with. It's not a desire to cut or anything else. That's the problem we're dealing with. A couple of the other things to keep in mind, that there's a lot of factors that we can't control. One is the LTW ADM. This is a long-term weighted average daily membership in residence. And it's a complicated formula that starts with an actual count of kids in the building that live in our district, and then adds all sorts of factors to come up with a number. The number is about 55% bigger than our actual physical students. So our actual physical student count is somewhere in the 900s, and our LTW ADM is a little over 1,500. We won't know that number when we bring the budget to the board. But that is how we come up with the per student count, per student cost. The other thing that comes up that we don't know is exactly what the per student cost is, because it's based on the actual budgets that were adopted for the current year. But the last update I got from Department of Ed was in July, and at that point, 13 budgets hadn't been adopted. So it will change from the number they gave us in July, and then that changes again based on the NEAP index. The NEAP index is a measurement of consumer price index that the state of Vermont uses, and they projected it to be 3.12%, but they didn't know, and that doesn't come out till sometime in November. So we will be presenting a budget to the board, and we won't know what its true impact is on these things, and whether we're in penalty phase or not. We probably won't know that until January. So I just wanted to kind of publicly say that this is a complicated process. Preparing a budget is not a hard process. Preparing a budget and then keeping it in compliance with all these things that change from outside forces that change kind of after the fact, make it a challenge to bring something forward that, especially when we're right on the line, makes it a challenge to bring something forward. That's what we're dealing with. That's what the board's dealing with. That's what we've been working on since July. And I think we're in pretty good shape, but I don't know. And I won't know when we present the budget. And I just want everybody to understand that that's kind of the process. I'm happy to try to answer questions on it.
So we know some of this because we've heard it before, and I know that when you estimated the 2.5 million gap, you would have taken your best possible assumptions on the long-term weighted ADM, your best possible assumptions on the inflation, and your best possible assumption on our on the base level budgets that need to pass across the state. And maybe you would have had some conservatism. So do you think when we finally get those numbers, is your heart telling you or your gut telling you that it's gonna get worse or better? Or do you just have no sense of predicting?
Here's some of the things that concern me. The LTW ADM is based on a 2-year average ADM. In 2023, our ADM was 900 students. In 2024, it was less. This year, we're not quite sure what it is yet, but it's going to be less than 2024. So we drop the 942, we take the 2024 and take the 2025, put them together and average them. And so our ADM used to calculate the LTW ADM will be smaller than the one that we used last year. So our LTW ADM will be smaller. And I don't know what that is because there are about 7 factors they use, which I don't have access to in order to come up with that number.
Excuse me, why do you not know your ADM?
Because it's still being.
I understand you don't know the LTW ADM, but the ADM is calculated in October.
No, the ADM we're still working on. We're still submitting and getting feedback. We're still cleaning up the ELL. We're still cleaning up the inter-district claims.
What's the number right now in Power School?
We
Or
don't have.
Alma? In your
Yes,
student
yes.
information system,
Yesterday it was 906.
thank you,
The day before it was 904.
thank you.
And it changes every day as we communicate with Department of Ed because of the ELL factors and all of the other factors that we're in the process. This is the first time it's been submitted electronically. And there's, you know, a lot of back and forth trying to correct the misinformation or the lack of information going back and forth.
And then back to my question, though, you addressed the first piece, which was the LTW ATM, but which makes you nervous and rightly so, but like with the inflation assumption you made and with the base level of the statewide budgets, how do you feel about those?
My inflation projection, I think, was pretty good. I had gone with about 14.5%. The health insurance, it came in at just under 12. So, you know, I guessed high on purpose and it came in okay, so that's okay. As you know, from the conversation we had at B&G the other day, we've seen some savings now from some of the renovations we've done to the buildings, the heating system, the electric control, the solar panels. Those things are starting to, actually, we can now measure those savings and put them in the budget. So we're getting some good numbers on a lot of this, but.
And I think the short version is, we don't want to cut any more than we have to.
Yeah.
And so finding that sweet spot, part of the enrollment challenge is, while our number is consistent, we have more out of district than living in the residence district. So
Yeah.
that makes that number a little tricky. It looks like we're maintaining, but we're bringing in more from towns outside of living in our 7
Yeah.
towns.
Our high school enrollment's been fairly
Right.
level for several years, but it's been more tuition students and less residential students.
So finding the sweet spot about being conservative enough, but not cutting any more than we have, there's the tension. That's what Jim and I sit with. We don't want to, you know, we're really looking at numbers, we're looking at participation, we're looking at what's in the central office, what's in the high school. I mean, we're really trying to spread the impact. And we don't want to have to make any more cuts than we have to. So finding that sweet spot and knowing all the factors that play in day to day, it's really challenging.
And when the budget's presented to us before all these numbers from the state are finalized, we probably have to approve that, get that cut or reduction, I'll call it. But then, once we get state finalized numbers, we can always have an emergency meeting as a board. If in fact we don't have to make a reduction that large, or if we have to make one larger, right?
Well, we have to have an approved budget. It has to be to the state by mid-January. Sometimes numbers don't even come in until after the budget's passed.
It also has to be printed and in the town reports by a certain date.
So we
And
try.
those are some of the deadlines in early to mid-January that we have, and Raina knows them by heart because she hears them all, but it's early to mid-January. She's gotta have everything reported.
It's gonna be our best guess, and it's hard, it's really hard, because it's programs, it's faculty, it's really meaningful things.
Ben?
Yeah, I just wanted to make the point that, you know, this isn't like a completely binary exercise. And by that, I mean, if we go into penalty phase because we've had to, our ADM didn't come in exactly what we were anticipating, that's not the end of the world. We just don't want to be $2.5 million into penalty phase. And after seeing all of our, our voters in our district having a 30%, Plymouth 36% increase to their taxes, getting stung unnecessarily or in ways that are just not going to allow us to pass a budget, right? So what the finance committee and what the administration have been working on is being good stewards of our taxpayers' funds in a time when we're incredibly sensitive and are going to be facing very strong headwinds so that we can get our budget passed, right? That's the goal. But if we're $10,000 or $50,000 into penalty phase, that's not going to make or break us, right? It's if we just didn't do this exercise at all.
Thank you. Anybody else? All right, well, thank you, Jim.
Thank you.
Our student representatives, who wants to go first, Aiden or Owen?
I can go first. It's a busy time. I'll be quick, but fall sports are largely done except for football, going to the championship on Saturday. It's been interesting to see some extracurriculars restarting. So the high school choir comes to mind. This has been completely dormant my entire time at Woodstock, I think even longer than that, but they performed this month with the bands. That's been cool. It's a new club. And also there's a debate team advised by Patty Topliff. So it's been a little chaotic. There's been some shouting, but it's been a lot of fun. Also, juniors and sophomores took the PSAT recently. And I also learned recently from Raph that we're going to be meeting. He's invited some students to meet with him and Justin Reich about AI this Friday. So I think it's pretty cool that he reached out and wanted some student input on that issue. And he and I have met with Dr. C, Ms. Souza, and I've been speaking with his civics teacher at the high school, Steve Smith, about our upcoming leadership summit. We want to have kind of a debate style conversation there. So looking to keep some guardrails on that and frame it civilly. So that's it for me.
Thank you, Owen. Aiden.
All right, thank you, Owen. I'll just kind of piggyback off of what he was saying. I think the high school, middle school building has been full of energy and movement this past month, a lot going on. I think especially on, the senior side of things, college applications are going pretty well for a lot of seniors. I know a bit right now. But yeah, I mean, many seniors are accessing help through teachers and counselors just to get that process going. Juniors are also starting to think about college and their options there, as we have many different colleges visiting our school. On a note that's kind of like besides the stress of college applications, students are enjoying the excitement of athletics and school spirit activities. We recently had, well, not super recently, but we had our high school spirit week on the week of October 7th to October 11th, where students got to dress up with friends and kind of match the themes that the student council, which Owen is president of, set up, which was really exciting to kind of bring school spirit up and going with the beginning of the year. And also the high school homecoming was this past weekend, which was a hit among students, especially younger students who this may be their first high school dance. Well, most teams have finished out their fall season over the past few weeks with playoffs and championship games. Varsity field hockey was just in the semifinals, and varsity football is now heading to the championship, and their game is this Saturday. So we wish them the best of luck as they head to that game. Like Owen said, the Superintendent Student Advisory Council is working hard to organize our 4th annual leadership summit, which is centered around that kind of debate-styled discussion, which we're working with both Ms. Souza and our civics teacher, Mr. Smith, to format. And Owen, Ms. Souza, and myself are going to be interviewing new board applicants. We sent out a board application form to students, underclassmen students in our school, since Owen and I will be stepping down at the end of this term. And we will be interviewing these applicants soon to hopefully find some new board members that will be coming in the next few years. And that's all for me.
All right, thank you. Are there any questions for Owen or Aiden? All right, thank you all, and thanks for the other reports in the board book. We are now going to move into the time scheduled appointments, starting with the Union Arena request. Jim, are you doing that?
I'm happy to do that.
Okay.
Although we do have two representatives of the Union Arena here this evening also. So as you know, the Union Arena is a building that's owned by the district. It's operated by the Union Arena Group. They, in 2021, they put solar panels on the building to the tune of about a little over $400,000. They've been making accelerated payments on those solar panels, trying to pay off the loan. Their monthly payments are a little over $3,000. They've been paying around $7,000. They have a little over $100,000 left on this. They've asked for us to authorize a withdrawal of $24,000 from the endowment fund, as you did a couple of years ago, to help them pay off this loan. If we do that, they keep paying at the rate they're paying, they'll have the loan paid off in December of 25 or January of 26. It will allow them to then start reinvesting some of the money, the debt, into replacing equipment like their Zamboni or their tractor or some of their other equipment in the building. On July 31st, the endowment fund had about $665,000 in it. It was originally established at 450. I think our target now is somewhere between $500,000 and $550,000 to keep as a reserve in that. And you have previously authorized some money for other work on the building, of which $50,000 has not been withdrawn yet, but the plan is for them to do that work summer of 25. So their request, and it was in your package, was to authorize $24,000 to be withdrawn.
By accelerating it, how much money are they saving in interest or?
I haven't calculated it, but they're saving probably close to 50% of the interest because they're paying it twice as fast as the schedule. Their interest rate is only, I think, 4.25%, so it's not a bad interest rate.
Ben?
Yeah, this came to finance on Monday, and we're supportive of the request as a committee. It's a strategy that's smart to save on those interest payments, as we just talked about, and within their discretion to set the strategy for those endowment funds beyond the purposes that they need to be maintained for. So finance is support.
Anyone else?
I know we talked about it, finance committee. A question is, the endowment has grown correctly, or correct, isn't it?
The endowment has grown substantially, and since I've been here, this will make our withdrawals from the endowment over $150,000, and it's still, significantly grown.
So even though we're taking some money out, it's still larger than when we started.
It is.
And exceeds the cushion that's required.
The cushion by the original agreement was $450,000, and we've kind of ratcheted that up without any official action, just because costs are going up.
All right, if there's no other questions or comments, I think we have to vote on this, correct?
Please.
So would somebody make a motion to address the need, 24,000?
I'll make the motion.
Thank you, Anna.
Second.
Who was the second?
Ben.
Okay, all in favor of granting the request, please say aye or raise your hand.
Aye. Aye. Aye.
Any opposed? Any recusing? All right, I think Ernie said yes. Okay, yes. Okay, the motion has passed. Is there anything
Yes,
else on the?
that's correct. Apologies for that.
Thanks. Anything else on the Union Arena?
No.
Do any of the people who came wish to say anything?
Yeah. A couple of just stats. I mean, we generated 350,000, Ryan Hofffield, president of the board. We generated 350,000 megawatt hours last year. We're already at 356,000 with November and December because we had record generation in September and October. So it's really working out well. I think long run, as we think about these things, we're starting to think about batteries and how potentially we can generate excess during the day to offset during curtailment periods and you know, maybe in the long run now, you know, just on battery technology, we might be able to fund the arena for a couple of days if there's ever a, you know, a natural disaster or something like that that's needed for the community.
With flooding and power outages in the past, we've been pretty close to losing our ice.
Okay, well, thank you.
Thank you.
Now we're going to discuss the announced tuition rate between Jim and Ben.
So annually, this time of year, you announce the tuition rate, and that's a requirement of AOE. A couple of years ago, with the finance committee, we tried to come up with a method of bringing this forward in a reasonable manner. And we decided to link it to the National Consumer Price Index, the CPI-U. And what we did is we've done it for the period of July 1st to June 30th of the past year. The increase of the CPI-U during that period was 3.627%. And so that's what the tuitions have gone up, and I've rounded them to the nearest $5 increment. And so what you see is a proposed high school tuition of $21,010, an elementary of $18,180, and a pre-kindergarten of $10,620. And you can see in the parentheses, the current tuition for this year, and the link will take you to the last 15 years history of tuition if you really care.
All right, we need to vote on this as well. Is there a motion to accept these changes?
Just a quick question. Where does this rank us amongst neighboring districts?
We are above middle, but marginally above middle. What's important is there's a process with the state. If we set this too high and it exceeds by a certain percentage what it actually costs, we have to give money back. Okay, and so we don't plan on giving money back.
Any other questions?
Yeah, how many kids in the district pay tuition?
Okay. Raf's document.
Yeah, Raf's document on the have.
103 is what I see.
Yeah. You keep in mind that Pittsfield is a tuition paying community, and even though they're part of our SU, and so they're about 40 or 45 of those 103.
Okay, thank you.
Carrie, I'll make the motion.
All right, thank you, Ben. Is there a second?
Second.
Heather seconded. All in favor of approving this, please say aye or raise your hand.
Aye.
Aye.
Any abstentions? Anyone who disagrees, please say that as well. Show us that. All right, and that has passed. Thank you. We now have time to consider our committee updates. The Finance Committee is first in the agenda.
Sure, yeah, Finance met last Monday, talked about the Union Arena thing and also, you know, spent quite a bit of time. I'm not supposed to talk about what we do in executive session, but it's no secret that we have to handle the budget adjustments in executive session. So just want to thank everybody and the additional board members who came to that session. We had moved it to facilitate more board members being able to participate in those sessions. So I'll echo Jim Fenn's comments. A lot of time, a lot of thinking, a lot of input has gone into it. Really appreciate everybody in the public who's come out to kind of help the board, the finance committee with perspectives from the community. And I think we're going to arrive in a place that's nobody likes to make these cuts, but it's going to be acceptable for everyone.
Any questions for Ben? All right, thank you, Ben. Policy committee update?
Yep. So we have no new policies, but we have 3 that are for a second reading today, which are brought up last time. They were all sort of related on curriculum, development, instructional library material. So I would like to make a motion or have someone make a motion to consider them for adoption at the next meeting, if we could do them all together, unless somebody wants to separate them out.
Okay, is there a motion to adopt these 3 policies?
Well, to consider for next.
To consider, and yeah, I know.
Push them forward.
Push them forward to the next.
Right.
Motion for that.
I'll make the motion.
Thank you.
I'll second that.
Thank you. Okay, all those in favor of moving these 3 policies forward for adoption at our next meeting, please say aye.
Aye.
Any nays? Any abstentions? All right, thank you very much. Buildings and grounds update?
Sure, I'll give that quickly. The major topic to start with was the heat in the building, because this is the first B&G committee meeting we've had since we started heating the buildings again. We have discovered some valves in West that are not working properly. So when you send the signal to control the temperature in certain rooms, the valves don't work, and so they have to be manually adjusted. There are plans to repair that, but it would likely not be till next summer. So it will involve sort of manual adjustment. But as we get to colder temperatures, Joe was saying, it will be fewer adjustments, because right now when it's cold and warm, you have to make more adjustments. But all in all, the JCI controls that were installed are working better in terms of our ability to actually control temp in each of the rooms, but there are a handful of rooms in the middle school, high school that still are having issues. And so what the committee asked Joe to do is come to the next meeting with literally a list of every single room in our district, every building, and to show us which ones are still having malfunctioning temperature control. And then we'll use that every month to see which ones have been fixed. Because we know this has been a really long-standing problem for a lot of the teachers and students in rooms that get excessively hot or remain excessively cold. But the JCI controls are installed and are working better, and they're still checking off some final conditions to that contract to consider it complete. We then reviewed the fiscal year 2025 budget, and we found some opportunities where we can pull in some spending that was planned for fiscal year 26. This is like buying things that you're gonna buy in fiscal year 26, like a door to be replaced. Well, if we buy it in 25, because we have some capacity in the 25 budget, we free up some budget in 26. So we recommended some areas where we would do that and take some pressure off of the fiscal year 26 budget. Then Joe took us through a complete list of planned projects for 2026 and prioritized the ones that have to be done, and then kind of ranked at a lower level the ones that would be kind of nice to have. But all in all, it looked like we would be able to cut the roughly 100,000 that we're looking to remove from buildings and grounds capital budget for 26. We did get an update from the town that they have submitted the letter to the state for a school speeding zone here at the middle school, high school, which would just alert traffic that when school is coming into session and letting kids out, that the speed would be reduced. And there were no RFPs to review at this time, so that is the update.
Okay, any questions or comments for buildings and grounds? All right, thank you. Negotiations, hiring and retention committee update. The committee met today with the school representatives to set ground rules for our negotiations. It only took us about 20 minutes to do that, so that was a good start. And then we talked about dates. We've set 5 dates over the next couple of months. So we're looking forward to that opportunity.
And that's our support staff.
Support staff, working with support staff. Yep, and actually that brings up a comment. I would be very happy if we could find one more board member to participate. You could consider yourself an alternative, but I personally will be traveling quite a bit in January, February, and March. And if it goes on that long, I would like there to be at least 3 people there. The support staff has 4 people. And so if I'm not there, that leaves us with 2. So you don't have to tell me yes tonight, but if you could think about that, it's not a long-term commitment. It's 2 hours every other week, more or less, to sit down together and consider the proposals that go back and forth. So let me know, please, or I will be coming to some of you. Any other working groups have an update?
Communications, we met briefly before this meeting. And we are working towards some new, better communications. So look out for that.
Thank you, Sam.
I'll add one more to buildings and ground, because I thought it was a nice thing to finally do. We're gonna replace the scoreboards here at the high school for the girls lacrosse and field hockey field, and also put in a new scoreboard for the softball field.
Electronic?
Yes.
Oh, yes.
Yes, on both.
Well, very pleased to hear that. Having been a softball mom, freezing most of the time. All right, at this time, we have another opportunity for public comment. So if anyone wishes to speak, please raise your Zoom hand or just wave here.
You want to approve the minutes?
Oh, yes, I will. Yes.
So we'll learn more about cuts in early December at a specific meeting, or what is the protocol, or how do we, when and where do we find it?
It should be in December, and we'll make sure that we get the information out on the specific dates. I believe it's currently set for the 18th. Is it the 18th of December?
Well, we'll have the presentation of the budget,
At the December meeting, so the first Monday night here.
At the December board meeting?
Yes.
It'll be presented here?
Yes.
Thank you.
Yep.
There's a-
Yes, Tammy.
Hi, everyone. Tammy Myers here. I just wanted to circle back to how we started our conversation around the unified arts and those possibly being cut as we move forward due to these budget cuts. And I just want to highlight what the 2 students who spoke so eloquently tonight here at this meeting. I just want to circle back to what they talked about. They talked about all the wonderful things that happen outside of reading, writing, and arithmetic. One comment was made about PSAT and SAT tests. Everything else was about the choir coming back, about sports, about all the wonderful things that school has to offer outside of reading, writing, and math. All the things that help our students be well-rounded human beings. So I just wanted to bring that to people's attention as we close.
Thank you. Anybody else? All right, I did forget to have us approve the minutes, so if we go back one item. We need to approve the minutes from the October 7th meeting. Is there a motion to approve it?
I'll make a motion to approve the minutes from the October 7th meeting.
Thank you,
I'll
Katie.
second.
Thank you, Sam. All in favor of approving the minutes, say aye.
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 Any nays? Any abstentions? Thank you. The ayes have it. And Eric, it looks like you would like to say something.
Yes, hi, actually, I'm sorry, one second. Yes, hi, this is Robert Dallas, Eric's husband. I wanted to circle back. I was curious on the capital improvements, how much were the scoreboards? Because if we're facing these budget cuts for the, the STEM and the arts and music, should we be spending and replacing equipment that's already working fine with electronic equipment when we have such huge deficits that we're trying to fill? I'm just wondering if our priorities are correct, because I would think that art and music, in my mind, for my 7-year-old, would weigh more than changing out a scorekeeping method for something that's already working. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. All right, sorry, been on the wrong page again. We do not have an executive session tonight, so now we have a time to self-evaluate and implement recommendations for improvement. Does anyone have anything they'd like to say?
Well, it's nice that we might have a meeting that ends in an hour, considering that on average, they usually go 3 to 4 hours and keep people here till.
So remember that feeling in December?
Yeah, I was thinking that, but I didn't want to jinx us for the next meetings, so I figured I wouldn't say it out loud. So, but yes, it is nice to have a 1 hour meeting. I actually really enjoyed. I felt like community engagement this meeting was very productive and well vocalized.
Thank you. Anna?
Carrie, I wanted to give you a big congratulations on including the nays and abstentions in the voting. I know that's come up previously, and nice work integrating it. Also want to say to folks who are coming in from the public and giving us your input, we obviously, any one of us would choose not to cut anything at all. And we really do hear you and appreciate you coming in and speaking to us, because this is the community working together and not separate entities. So thank you to the public for coming in and speaking as well.
Thank you, Anna. And if somebody calls for a vote to adjourn, we will be 7 minutes short of an hour.
So
Well, I would just say one more
sorry.
thing to mention, because the public engagement was really good tonight, but I also encourage all the board members to go watch the recording of the public comments that came in for the finance committee meeting 2 weeks ago, because there was a big showing from the language departments who were not here tonight. And then there, as well as additional comments that came in from art and music and science and STEM. So if you haven't seen that recording, I recommend it.
Thanks.
Okay.
I have one more comment if there's time. I'm unsure if everyone is aware of the amount of time everything is taking during the day. So during the day at West, correct me if I'm wrong, literacy is 1 hour and 45 minutes a day. And the UA courses that they are talking about cutting are 40 minutes once a week. That's how much art they get, and that's how much music they get, and that's how much STEM they get. So when we're talking about making it even less, it's already considerably less. So there isn't much left to cut. And I'm just not sure if all of the parents in the community realize that that is the percentages of these things we're talking about. Thanks.
Thank you. All right, any other comments? All right, can I have a motion to adjourn?
So
Motion
moved.
to adjourn.
I will second.
All right, all in favor?
Aye.
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 Any case? Any abstentions? Okay, thank you very much, everybody.